Alright, this set of notes is going to be about vertical angles. Our essential question is going to be, how do I use the properties of vertical angles to solve problems? Now, as you will recall, vertical angles have the same measure. We talked about this before. Let's make a quick note of that. Vertical angles are congruent, which means have the same measure. Okay. So that's our number one property there, star. Next up, let's look at a way that we can use that. So, example 1, say I have two angles here, vertical angles, and we'll call this measure X, and we'll call this measure 55 degrees. So let's see here. I'm going to put some labels on these angles. We'll call it, let's see, we'll call this A, B, C, D, E. So we're going to write this out in a couple columns here. We're just going to do what we're doing, make a note of it over here. Okay. So first, I'm going to write that angle ABC is congruent to angle DBE. And that's that vertical angles are congruent. Okay. Next, we're going to say that the measure of ABC is equal to the measure of angle DBE. Okay. And we're just going to write here a little note. Congruent means equal measure. Okay. And then we're just going to substitute. We know that ABC is X, and we know that DBE is 55. And here we have that we've just substituted our values. So we're going to write substitute values. Now I know this looks like I'm doing way more work than I need to, and if you're just solving a problem, yeah, that's really all you have to do. Is just you look at it and you say, well, X is 55. I wouldn't waste all my time doing this. But I'm writing this out this way because this is sort of a bit of a proof. We have a list of statements, and over here we have our reasons, right, for making those statements. And we're going to start doing a little more proofs soon, and I just kind of wanted to give you a little example of that. All right, let's take a look at a more complicated problem now. All right, number 2. Here, we're not going to do the whole proof thing on this one. I'm going to put that this is 110 degrees. And down here, we're going to call this 2x plus 40. Okay? So first, we're gonna abbreviate this just a little bit. Okay? We're gonna say that 2x plus 40 equals 110 degrees. And we know that because vertical angles are congruent. Okay? I'm going to just put a little equal measure. Kind of M-E-S-U-R-E. Geez, can't spell today. All right, so we've got that this angle is 110. This angle is whatever x is. 2x plus 40 must equal 110 because these two angles have the same measure. So we've got to figure out what x is. Right? Let's make a note here. Solve for x. All right. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to subtract 40 from each side. So I'm going to go minus 40, minus 40, and we get 2x equals, see, 110 minus 40 is 70. Okay. Actually, I'm not going to write the word out, subtract, geez. Let's just go subtract 40, minus 40, that's what we did. You can kind of see that up there anyway. Next, we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. And see, divide by 2, we get x equals 35. Make a little note over here. Divide by 2. One thing that common mistake people make is they put a fraction bar and they write 2x underneath. We're not dividing by 2x, we're just dividing by 2. I've got 2 x's and together they equal 70, so I'm going to cut both sides in half so that 2 x's, we just have 1 x, we cut this in half, 70, we have half of that, that's 35. So x equals 35. And that's our end answer. We solved for x. Alrighty. So in the end, overall, when you're solving equations for vertical angles, you're just going to start out by saying that they are equal to each other. Whatever two expressions you're given here, you could end up with something that has variables up there as well, and you have to solve an equation that has variables on both sides. It's possible. But you're going to say that they're equal to each other. Right? Now we're going to run into other situations where we're going to say that they are maybe they add up to 180 or they add up to 90. But in this case, when it's vertical angles, they're going to be equal to each other. And then we just solve the equation. We get a value for x. Now sometimes in some other problems we may also be asked to go back and figure out what the angle was. Now hopefully if we substitute 35 into 2x plus 40 we should get 110 in this case. Alright, and good luck with these.